The trial started this afternoon for a Lafourche Parish man accused of animal cruelty and animal noise code violations.
But after 3.5 hours of testimony in the case against Chris Michaud, the court continued the trial to next month. It's a case the Fox 8 Defenders has followed for months. Shelley Brown has more from Thibodaux.
April 16th is the first full open court date. Today, prosecutors called 4 witnesses to the stand to testify. Mr. Michaud's next-door neighbors, Vivian and Joey Sanchez, and also 2 Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Patrol Sergeants. Mrs. Sanchez testified that when she first moved to the Thibodaux property, Michaud told her he had about 100 dogs. Mr. Sanchez says the barking was nonstop, sometimes for hours, and it would wake him up in the middle of the night in some cases. Prosecutors also played a 35-minute video that the neighbor shot. Most of it revealed nonstop barking. There was really only a few moments of quiet time during the whole tape. The defense, in the meantime, argued someone must have been provoking the dogs.
Our field investigators go out, document what we see, and report that to the sheriff's office. We take no other actions other than that. We would never intentionally, cause something to happen.
Several of Chris Michaud's neighbors showed up at court just to listen and watch, saying they've lived with the complaints the Sanchez's have made for years.
We were pretty much reliving what we've seen all along. I mean, the 35-minute video was very damning to just see how that's an everyday life of everyone back there in the Little Shoe Pit community. There's no barriers or anything from our side, but we can definitely see the animals tied up and the conditions, and we can also, the smells tell us, that there's a lot going on over there.
Today's testimony mainly focused on those animal noise code violations. The animal cruelty charges will likely come up next month when trial resumes. Also at that time, the prosecution is likely to call up several more Lafourche Parish Sheriff's deputies, along with a representative from the Humane Society of Louisiana Lafourche chapter. Now, the defense attorney for Chris Michaud also mentioned that he has subpoenaed Lafourche Parish Sheriff Craig Weber to testify. Reporting in Thibodaux, Shelley Brown, Fox 8 News.
All of the witnesses in the trial were sequestered. Judge Hugh LaRose also asked them not to discuss the case with anyone. Chris Michaud's attorney didn't want to comment while the trial is still ongoing.
Chris Michaud of Thibodaux was back in court to learn how the Lafourche Parish veterinarian evaluated his dozens of dogs, part of a court order by Judge Hugh LaRose. In May, Michaud was convicted of 32 counts of failure to vaccinate animals, 1 count of cruelty of animals, and 5 counts of violating the animal noise code. The 2-day trial followed a series of Fox 8 Defenders reports that first exposed in November animals on Michaud's Little Shoe Pit property that appeared to be chained with no food or water nearby and dirty and crowded kennels. We witnessed one dog get sick and struggle to limp away. Flies swarmed his body.
We can't do no kind of activity outside because they bark the whole time we're outside.
Michaud's neighbors say the dozens of barking dogs made them sick.
Every time we come out, they disturb us, middle of the night, can't sleep, can't concentrate.
Joey and Vivian Sanchez filed more than 30 complaints against Michaud with the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office. Besides reports that documented violations of the parish's animal noise code, one sheriff's deputy's report last August revealed dogs were also laying in feces and appeared very dirty. A deputy report from December 2011 stated he's running a business, Briar Brash Brittany's, an animal management facility, since 1979. But in November, when we checked with parish government, Fox 8 confirmed Chris Michaud never had an occupational license. It wasn't until after our report that he secured one.
Hold on, Wrangler. Hold on, buddy. I know.
Lafourche Parish veterinarian Dr. Lonnie Delahousie was ordered by the court to determine the number of dogs on Michaud's property and evaluate their welfare and environment.
The first thing that struck me is the number of animals on the property and the conditions of the housing. Based off what I estimated and what he told me, Probably anywhere from 120 to 140, all Brittany Spaniels.
In a detailed report, Dr. Delahousie noted Mishu's kennels were stacked on top of each other.
Definitely, there were a couple of kennels that had up to 13, 14 dogs in there.
And how many dogs should be in a kennel the size that he was using?
The size of the runs, in my opinion, I think it should have been more or less 4 or 5.
Delahousie documented areas of standing water adjacent to the kennel area, which he says could be a breeding ground for mosquitoes and lead to heartworms.
And I find it very difficult that you're going to be able to manage heartworms in 120, 140 dogs. You know, it's just impossible.
In the report, it's also noted there was a long row of feces along the fence line. Dr. Delahousie points out there were only 4 50-pound bags of dog food on the premises. In his opinion, a brand of dog food with the poorest quality on the market. Which is why he wrote in his report, "It looks odd to me he has so many dogs on a very poor diet, but appear to be well-fed, fat, or at least not thin." Delahousie says that leads him to question in the report whether steroids are being used.
Didn't see it. Have no proof that any of that was taking place, not implying anything. But that is a concern because of the quality of food that was being used. There's a lot of filler in that food. So the waste that the dog produces is a lot more than a higher quality food, which means they go through that bag a lot quicker. They're not keeping the nutrition in their body.
He also pointed out dogs with skin issues and questions what measures Mishu is taking to avoid breeding those dogs. Also, Delahousie noted when he asked Mishu how he keeps males and females separate, he responded that he lets them out at separate times. Delahousie noted, while explaining this to me, a male dog right next to us is trying to mount a female. He wrote, "I can only suspect a large amount of inbreeding is taking place."
Where you have physical and mental abnormalities, and it's just not a very good thing.
Delahousie noted these dogs don't see anyone but Mr. Mishu 24/7.
I think they need to go. He's over his head. There's just no way one person can handle 120 plus dogs and do it correctly. Period. They need to leave the premises.
The Humane Society has gotten the Brittany Spaniel Foundation people together. They are ready to go in and grab the dogs. And so the judge said he didn't care what organization Mishu chose to take the animals, but they had to be rehomed.
The Sanchez's, meantime, couldn't wait any longer. They say they've moved out of Lafourche Parish and have put their home on the market, and they're not alone.
All kind of people came over and checked it out. And nobody gave us any kind of answers. It was never taken care of.
How many years would you say you all went through that?
I'd say over 32 years.
Linda Thibodeau used to live next door to Mishu, but says she moved away because of the same concerns the Sanchez's have.
Chris Mishu is due back in the Lafourche Parish Courthouse July 24th. For the Fox 8 Defenders, I'm Shelley Brown. Lafourche Parish District Attorney Cam Morvant tells Fox 8 that Judge Hugh LaRose told Chris Mishu in court this morning he could keep 10 of his dogs, but ordered him to get rid of the rest, more than 100 animals, and turn them over to a national Brittany Spaniel rescue group.
By 10 a.m., the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office and its animal control officers started seizing animals from Mishu's Little Shupik Road property. Each dog placed in a kennel and loaded onto cattle trailers. 56 dogs on one, more than 30 on another, and some in animal control vehicles.
We're using some of their vehicles, which are climate controlled, to take care of some of the smaller or sicker animals.
Several members of the Crisis Management Unit, essentially Lafourche's SWAT team, were also on site.
They were on scene just in case the situation did escalate into something, so we were just prepared for any situation. Luckily, Mr. Mishu has been cooperative and we have not had any issue with him at all.
Mishu's neighbors, who made several complaints about dogs barking all day and night, watched as the seizure unfolded.
I think they should have did this long ago. They knew this was going on, running an illegal business, and we shouldn't have to move, and the lady next door shouldn't have to move. They fought him for years. They're late.
From Thibodaux, crews transported 103 dogs to the Raceland Ag Center about 15 minutes away.
They're looking good considering.
Considering what?
Well, just what they came from. You know, and the lack of care, you know, with all the heartworm positives that we have right now, you can only assume that, you know, there are other things that are lacking. You know, the feeding, the housing, you know, et cetera.
Parish veterinarian Dr. Lonnie Delahousie had to evaluate and vaccinate every animal.
A lot of heartworm dogs, a lot of skin issues, a lot of teeth issues, a lot of gum issues or mouth issues, skin problems. We've only had one heat stroke, and that was very mild. Got that on IV fluids, and dogs already up and walking around.
Brittany Spaniel rescue groups from Florida, New England, and Texas, and 2 national rescue groups are also in Lafourche to move the dogs to foster homes around the country and eventually adopting families.
There's a number of people who put a lot of hard work in here, and we're all running on adrenaline, and we're all on cloud 9 to have this opportunity to help facilitate them having a new life. They deserve that.
The National Brittany Rescue says a team from the LSU Vet School will be in Lafourche to help on Friday, and they hope to move out of Louisiana by the weekend. For the Fox 8 Defenders, I'm Shelley Brown.